Hey guys, I'm in Simi Valley, California. I'm at IZIP's new headquarters, and I'm checking out the new IZIP E3 Dash. And it just never looked better. This has long been one of my favorite electric bikes because it really balances value with performance. It is a speed pedelec, class 3, so you can see here 350 watt, 28 miles per hour. That's the new California classes. Great for commuting, gets you there a little bit faster, but one of the interesting things about it is their controller, their motor, the battery, the display, they use a CAN bus system, so they can be updated and adjusted, and you can actually change that top speed if you want to. You can even change the power dynamics, so you can raise the amperage flow by 3, or you can lower it by 3 by entering the settings. Pretty cool, and you can do the ladder adjustment yourself, just using the display. This thing has integrated lights. You got the Solo by Spaninga in the rear here on the rack. Not gonna block your trunk bag or your panniers. We've got the Blue Line 50 by AXA, adjustable, really nice. Great to have those integrated. One thing it does not have that I've seen on some other bikes recently is like a USB port or something to charge your portable electronics. But I must say the battery choice here is pretty good. Apparently they're using Panasonic cells inside. That's higher quality, gonna last a little bit longer. This is 48 volts, and it's gonna give you a little bit more power. It's gonna be a little more efficient than 36 volt on some of the older bikes. So, 417 watt hours. It's pretty sizable, 8.7 amp hours. Low, centrally located on the bike, about 5.5 pounds for that. The bike itself, this is the large frame, of which there are 3 sizes, okay? So we have 17, 19, and 21. This is 21. It only weighed 53 pounds, and I was impressed. I was like, really? I mean, for a bike that has a suspension fork, really nice upgrade this year, RockShox Paragon air fork, right? That's part of why it's probably lighter versus spring. It's got lockout, and we've got a nice quick release adjust on the front. Nice matte black finish. RockShox is one of my favorite brands. I used to have some of their stuff when I was a little bit younger, and it was kind of the coolest suspension out there. These days, as our Sun Tour has been doing a great job, but I've seen that particular fork on the Specialized Turbo and some of the other more premium bikes. So, they're taking what used to be, in my opinion, it was a little more like, oh yeah, kind of a value bike, and they're making it just a lot cooler. The older E3 Dash had a hub motor. This new one has the Trans-X mid-drive. This is the M16, 63 Newton meters of torque. That's a lot. So you're getting great power. It gives you more of a kind of a cadence feel. So some of the other mid-drives out there rely on like cadence, pedal speed, and pedal torque. This one being cadence, I've noticed I don't have to push quite as hard. I just select whatever level of assist I want, and then I pedal kind of whatever is comfortable, and the motor it gives me up to full power on that. I don't have to strain myself. You're not gonna get quite as good a range, however, especially if you're in the higher speed, up to 28 miles per hour. It really flies. Like going at that speed, you totally notice it. Great for commuting, but they estimate like 16 to 36 miles per charge. And yeah, it totally depends on how you ride. If you're in the lower levels of assist and you actually paddle along, I think you could get more than 35, 36 miles per charge, just because, again, these mid-drive systems, they leverage your cassette. So if you switch gears appropriately, you're going to empower the motor. It's not going to have to work quite as hard, unlike the older hub motors that just kind of gave you whatever power they could, and there was this sort of optimal RPM, and it only happened at like 15 miles per hour or something. Whereas this could be spinning at an optimal RPM at a wide range of speeds depending on the gears. And we do have a nice little setup here. This is SRAM X7 derailleur. Got a nice trigger shifter up here, really easy to use and reach. Clean cockpit. Last year I think they were using Shimano, so it's interesting to see that kind of switching over, and it is 10 speeds. You have a pretty good range of choices here on gears, 11 to 32 teeth. A nice little plastic guard here. One point of feedback or area of sensitivity I would like to point out is that this doesn't seem to have shift sensing. So especially with a cadence sensor here, if you're pedaling, even if you're not pushing, if you're pedaling and that's active, you're going to be applying those up to 63 Newton meters directly to the chain, the sprockets, the derailleur, and that could cause premature wear. It's just fact of life with these mid-drives. I was a little bit surprised that they don't have motor inhibitors on the brake levers. I think the brakes are great. These are the Shimano hydraulic disc brakes, 180 millimeter up front, 160 in the rear. Nice kit, but if you're pedaling and you've got that motor going and you need to stop, you're going to be fighting the motor momentarily. There is a little bit of delay. And if for some crazy reason you're still pedaling and braking at the same time, again, you're fighting the system. So I was kind of surprised to see that, and maybe they figure like, hey, these are really strong brakes. You don't need the motor inhibitor thing. I don't really know. But yeah, you can see these nice grips. These are Velo. They're locking, semi-ergonomic, a little bit more comfortable, and they're going to pair nicely with that suspension fork. I believe it's 65 millimeters of travel. Velo saddle, more of an active, they call it like a city design. It is IZIP branded, which is cool. And then we've got a seat post here that's pretty standard. You could replace that with a suspension post, and that would be my choice personally, just given how far and fast you might be riding on this. If you're a commuter, it's just gonna lighten up some of those bumps. At high speed, you really start to feel it. I believe that's 31.6 millimeters, a little bit wider than normal. I will have the specs on this back at the site, including standover height and some other measurements. It's a pretty good bike overall, and I do like the frame color and just how integrated everything looks. It's stylish. Got a nice rack here, 18 kilograms, not quite as heavy duty as some of the others I see that are 25 kilograms. So this is maybe like 40 pounds max weight instead of 55. We've got a little loop here for if you wanted to add some bungee cords. There's no spring latch or anything, but again, this probably keeps it lighter, like I was talking about. Plastic fenders by SKS, you know, they do rattle around a little bit. You'll notice that there's just one point here to attach, a point here and a point here. That's, you know, 3, whereas some of the other ones have 4 or even 5. I noticed that was just kind of bouncing like this when I was riding a bit more. I think they look nice, they're tight. They've got the mud flaps and stuff. It's just that's one area that's a little bit like meh. Also, the chain ring here, this is really cool. It's got a metal guard on the outside, like a bash guard, and then there's a guide too, a metal guide, so the chain's probably not gonna bounce off as easily. And I love the Wellgo platform pedals. These cranks are 175 millimeters versus 170, so they're a little bit longer, and that's just this nice flowy cadence. Tires are 700 by 45C, a little bit larger, and that's gonna give you just kind of a faster, flowier feel, not quite as like nimble and quick. This is what you want to see on a road bike. In fact, that's the size that road bikes use, maybe just not quite as fat. And that thickness is going to give you better traction and maybe a little bit of cushion because there's more air going on. Yeah, I think that's how I describe it. It's kind of a nice feel. Again, both wheels, quick release, battery lockable. You don't have to leave the keys in. Totally appreciate that. I've been leaving them in just because I don't want to lose them for now for this ride test, but it comes off pretty easily and it kind of slides out. They were able to add water bottle cages on this year's model. Last year, I don't think they had them, and that's something I always gripe about because I want to put like a folding lock or a bottle or a mini pump or something, you know, and that way I don't have to have a bag if I don't want to. I might even take the rack off depending on my situation. Here's a charger, 1.8 pounds, 2 amps, kind of average. You know, this is just, it's a little bit generic, and that's fine. I do like that the charge interface is metal, so if you step on it or drop it, it should hold up a little bit better. It's not bad. It's not bad. They can just give you another close-up of the motor from below. Kind of got a metal encasement here to maybe protect it a little bit. You can see the welds and everything. Yeah, really cool. Look at this. There's the IZIP logo on the bottom here and internally routed cables. Interesting tubing, how it's sort of flat and semicircular on the bottom. I want to call out the quick stand too while we're talking about the frame, because I like how they mounted it. It's towards the rear. By the way, this is 142 by 12 millimeter through axle, so a little bit tougher and more rigid. Going to give you better strength. 13 gauge spokes, slightly thicker than standard 14, so that's great. Some strength for the high-speed applications. Anyway, the kickstand's far enough back that it's a little bit out of the way, so you can pedal this backwards if you want. But you'll notice that it's not actually turning the chainring. Sometimes, you know, if you're tuning up a bike yourself, you can kind of rotate this backwards and oil the chain, but that's not the case here. You might need a bike stand or something, and that's fine. So here's the other side of the battery. I noticed that you could press this power button and it sort of showed an energy graph on the side. So if you didn't have this connected to the bike, you could still tell how full it is. That's handy. I usually store my battery on the bike, and I like charging it on the bike, but if you live somewhere where it's really cold in your garage or really hot, you might want to store the battery separately. Cool, dry locations are best. So I would press that, kind of power it on, and then come up here to the display. Really easy to reach this button pad. Press the on button for a second, and it sort of jumps to life here. I'm gonna call this like the page button here. It's kind of like a settings or menu button, but you press that, it goes from odometer readout to trip, dynamic range adjustment here, and that's going to give you some feedback how far the bike thinks you can go based on how much battery is left, and then the default view, which is just speed, so miles per hour. I believe if you want to change from miles per hour to kilometers per hour, you can hold that page button for a couple seconds, and then yeah, kilometers per hour. So that's really easy to adjust. And then if you want, you can hold the plus button for a couple seconds to add the lighting. So we get backlighting on the display and the lights turn on. Maybe you can see that. They look pretty good when I was inside earlier. It was a little bit darker. One thing I haven't been able to figure out is how to turn off backlighting on the display. Because sometimes I'm riding and I want the lights on, but I don't want to be distracted by this big bright LCD display. And this is not removable. It does swivel, it's adjustable. I think it's in a nice spot, it's easy to read, but it does have a light sensor, so at night, as soon as it gets dark, this thing turns on and it's a little bit bright. Anyway, so we have speed, we have assist level, and we have battery capacity. There's 5 bars there. That's kind of standard, 20% increments. It leaves a little bit to be desired when you're down to the last bar and you're like, well, am I at 20% or am I at 5%? You don't want to run out, because even though this has 10 gears, even though I'd say it's on the lighter side given all the features it has, it's still 53 pounds. And that's just an area that it's like, okay, maybe a percentage would be nice in the future. Anyway, there is let's see, the arrow down from 4, that's the highest level of assist, 3, 2, 1. Let's go back to range here. So it's saying 45 miles. See, that's the thing. On their website, they say like, 16 to 36. Kudos to IZIP for being a little bit conservative so people don't think they can go huge distances and then come to realize maybe that's not true for their weight, for their terrain. It's neat to have the dynamic range calculation, and I guess that sort of makes up for the lack of battery percentage here. So anyway, what I wanted to show you is that 1 isn't actually the lowest level. Even though I'm hitting minus, it's not going down further. If you hold the power button for a couple seconds, it doesn't turn it off. It takes it to 0. Now this is just like a bike. You're just riding it like a bike. You could still use the lights. That's kind of neat. It's like, I almost feel like it's a little secret menu feature there. And then you have to hold power again for a few seconds to actually turn the bike down off. Or you can arrow up and go back into the regular settings. That's a little confusing because a couple times I thought I was turning off the bike. Come to realize I was just getting it to 0 mode, and I don't know, whatever. It's a little quirky. If you hold plus and the page button for a couple seconds, it brings up the menu system. And when I say a couple seconds, I mean 10 seconds. It's quite a while. Once it finally comes on, there we go, support, can arrow up or down, light, and you can actually adjust the LCD brightness and then the lights, like how much sensitivity that little light sensor has. It's pretty cool. But the support is that's the part where if I arrow up to like 15, apparently that adds 3 amps. So that's gonna run the battery quicker, but it's gonna give me a zippier feel. I'm gonna leave it there because I want you to see and hear this motor in its like fullest potential. Okay, and then I guess I hold the 2 of these things again for a couple seconds. There we go. Maybe I hit the power button. There we go. Okay, cool. Held the power button for a few seconds, and that got me out of those menus. Now I'm going to take a ride with you. Try to show this thing off a little bit. Again, the keys would not have to be left in. I'm just doing this so I don't lose them. Here we go. Nice. Doing pretty well. It's feeling smooth. Okay. Oh, and it looks like I switched it to kilometers per hour there. I'm gonna hold that page button for a couple seconds, get it back to miles per hour. I was probably in the 22 miles per hour speed. pretty stable, purposefully kind of bouncing it around, and I'm getting a good handling. Nice. I really like that suspension fork. For me, that's like a highlight. Makes the bike look cooler, and it's relatively lightweight. Intense. I actually started off with no assist, just to pedal around a little bit and shift gears, and then I started shifting with pedal assist just to see how it would go. I was able to back off a little bit and try to reduce the strain. Seems like it worked well. That SRAM X7 is doing a good job, and the brakes really do a great job stopping you. So I've had a good time riding this thing around. I do want to call out that shift sensing thing again. I'm going to shift gears while pedaling. Hopefully you could hear that. It's a little bit more of a popping sound, not quite as smooth because there is no shift sensing mechanism in there. And I'm not sure what to do about that. Sometimes I would hit the brake levers to try to kill the motor, but this doesn't have motor inhibitors. Other times I would ease off on the pedals, but this is a cadence sensor, so even if I ease off, the motor might still be working. I guess my only advice would be try not to be like accelerating real hard or pedaling real hard when you shift, just to kind of keep that drivetrain intact. Well, there we go. That is the IZIP E3 Dash. Whole bunch of upgrades. Hope you've enjoyed checking this out. It's $25.99, so I feel like the price point is still reasonable, and you know, you're getting that 2-year warranty and dealer support from IZIP. This is one of the few bikes that they can adjust and kind of change the speeds and work with you a little bit, and I like that. It's neat to see. For the full write-up on this with more of the details and measurements, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. And of course, have fun, but especially at high speed, ride safe. And I almost forgot, they do sell like an optional boost button that'll take you up to like 20 miles per hour that you can add. And you can see over here, see that little plug right here? This is where it plugs in. So it's all wired in to potentially have a throttle, and that's something you would do yourself and add aftermarket. Unfortunately, I don't have one here to test. I've seen it before, and I'm kind of mixed on it because you have to hold the button down the whole time. It's not like the most comfortable experience in the world, but for someone just prefers to cruise around like a scooter, it's neat that they offer that. You know, I feel like they're doing a lot to get it dialed in. Every year they adjust something and get it a little bit closer to perfection. Anyway, I think that's about it. I'll see you guys later.